I am so grateful for this opportunity to be with all of you this evening. Special gratitude to Vivek and your beautiful family for opening the doors of your wonderful home for all of us. And to Peter and Amy and Greg and everyone. I don't know what to say, but I'm going to say something anyway. Vivek was talking about how his father was a dentist. And he was dental, and you became transcendental. That means he transcended dental. But in May of last year, I was invited to speak at the HSBC Bank headquarters in Canary Wharf in London. It was very interesting. There was 800 bankers that gathered in this hall, and I was standing on the podium, and I said a little prayer. What am I supposed to say to these people? So I began my talk by just being honest. I said, I'm feeling very honored because here I am speaking at one of the greatest banks in the world to about 800 of the greatest bankers in the world. And myself, I have not had a bank account or signed a check since 1969. They looked at me like I was an alien from the most distant planet in the universe. Like, how could anyone survive without a bank account? But anyways, then I went on to speak. They wanted me to speak on unity in diversity. The idea was they had so many people of different nationalities and different races and religions, from so many ethnic groups working in their bank, and they wanted a lecture that would create a sort of harmony. And they gave me a garland like this, and I picked up the garland, and I said, this is unity and diversity. It's beautiful. If every flower in the garland was yellow, it wouldn't be so nice. But we have yellow and purple and pink, and it's not that the yellow flowers are fighting with the pink flowers saying, you know, I should be on this garland and not you, and I'm better than you, and you're fragrant and I'm more fragrant. And all the flowers, because there's a thread between them, the diversity creates a very beautiful form of unity. And what is that thread? You don't see the thread in a garland. You only see the flowers. But without the thread, none of them could be together. And that's the internal wisdom of, you know, what really is it that binds people together? And there's a beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Vidyavanaya sampane brahmani gavihastini sunichaiva swapakeja pandita samadarshana. Describes what is actual knowledge. Who is a pundit? Pundit means someone with wisdom. In the Bhagavad Gita, it doesn't define a pundit as someone who has accumulated large quantities of data on their brain. It's not about getting a bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhD. It's not about getting many followers or defeating people in debate. actual knowledge, actual wisdom, according to the Gita, is the ability to see every living being with equal vision. Whether one is man or woman, black or white, red or yellow or brown or yellow, whether one is Hindu, Muslim, Jew, Christian, Jain, Sikh, Parsi, Zoroastrian, agnostic, atheist, whether one is from the east or the west, whether one is a human or an elephant or a cow or a dog or a cat, to understand that life is sacred. Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. This is a verse from Gita where Krishna is saying that every living being is part of me. Every living being is a spiritual spark, a part of God. The living force within us. Because if we try to create peace in this world simply on the basis of our physical conditions or our mental conditions, there's so many things that are just not similar. The peace process is usually negotiations, but it's very vulnerable. But if we build our relationships with each other on a foundation of what we actually really have in common, we're all alive. And who is it that's alive? This is the principle of the Gita, that it's the Atma. It's the spiritual force, the living force that within us. It's seeing through the eyes and hearing through the nose and touching through the skin, thinking through the brain, loving through the heart. Who is that me? What is the difference between a living body and a dead body? Consciousness. And the Gita explains that consciousness is like the driver in the automobile of this body. And when we understand who we really are on this spiritual level, then we transcend all sectarian considerations, because when we understand who we are, we actually understand who everyone is, beyond the conditionings of the physical and mental states. Wherever there's life, there is a sacred part of God. And to love God, you cannot not love anyone. You may not love what they do, but we love them because they're a part of God, they're a part of us. And that, according to the Gita, is knowledge. That is wisdom. And that's universal. In the Bible, Lord Jesus, he proclaimed, "What is the use if you gain the whole world if you lose your eternal soul?" And to build a foundation in our own lives, personally as well as collectively, on that basis, accessing love of God from within and being instruments of compassion, God's compassion. That's actually the purpose of yoga, and it's the purpose of all religions, to love God and be an instrument of compassion. The first commandment in the Bible is to love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And Gita tells, "Aham bija pratrapita." Krishna says, I'm the father and mother of every living being. So what does that mean? Everyone is our neighbor. The testimony of loving God is not on the basis of how many quotations from scriptures we can cite. The testament of how we actually love God is how we love all our neighbors as our own self. Because we recognize the string may not be seen with our senses, but we recognize the string that's holding everything together. And then as a global society, we could actually be united. The Bible also tells that if you build a house on shifting sand, then when the storm comes, it will all collapse. It may look beautiful. It may be 100 stories high, may be made out of gold and silver and beautiful architecture. But when a storm comes, it's all going to crumble, whatever it's made out of, if it's built on sand. But if you build that house on solid rock, whether it's made out of straw or whether it's made out of precious metals, it will stand. And what this is referring to is the foundation of our life. If we have peace, if we have fulfillment that's coming from deep within our heart, due to our values, our integrity, our spiritual connections, then nothing in the world can actually disturb us. We deal with the situations, but we have a foundation to deal with them. In which case, stress makes us stronger if we have a strong foundation. If we have a weak foundation, stress could really, we may deal with it, but we could really be in anxiety and frustration, and we can compromise our integrity, our dignity, our moral principles, our values, everything, unless we have an inner fulfillment. That inner fulfillment is based on compassion, goodness, devotion. And that's a universal principle. And this is so much a need in the world today, is in our educational systems. Just a few months ago, I spoke at Cambridge University in England, and I told them that here I am, I'm speaking to graduate students at Cambridge University, and I actually only had one semester of a junior college. And I'm teaching you. God really does have a sense of humor. But our universities, our colleges are giving our youth incredible amounts of education with science and technology, engineering, political sciences. And these are tools which are extremely powerful. But what the peace and fulfillment and quality of life and in this world is depending on is the values that people have these tools are embracing. It's like a knife. Is a knife good or bad? A knife is only good or bad according to whose hand it's in. If the knife is in the hands of a murderer, then it will kill someone for their money. If that same exact knife is in the hands of a surgeon, it will save a person's life. Everything is potentially spiritual or material, good or bad, according to who uses it, our values. It's like at our hospital, we have a hospice. And in Vrindavan, a holy place, we just built a hospice for people because people like to go there to die. So at hospices, there's morphine. So when I saw the morphine, I was thinking a drug dealer will use the morphine to somehow or other destroy a young person's life by convincing him to take more and more and get addicted to it. A drug dealer will take morphine to cause people incredible pain by ruining their lives. And a hospice nurse will use the exact same morphine to relieve a person's pain and to help them to die with dignity. So whether it's knowledge, education, wealth, prestige, power, technology, science, All of these things are neutral. They could be used to pollute the world or cleanse the world. They can be used to exploit or to serve. I have quite a few friends who are in the Wall Street scene in New York, and they like to tell me about the inside information. One person, a good friend of mine, just wrote a book called Conversations with Wall Street. He was a big Wall Street person, and some of the biggest companies he was relating to, and he interviewed the biggest people in these companies. He recorded them, and it's all in this book that's coming out. It's not only shocking, it's horrifying, the way some of these people think. To make money is the only value they have, and what the cost for other people are is not, it's irrelevant. Not everyone is like that, but there are big people like that. So what's critical is to give the people of the world, especially our children, with the education, universal values, an actual spiritual foundation that they could build their occupations, their families, their character upon. And then with that thread of values, our differences, the diversity among us, could actually increase the beauty of life for the world. Some people, in the West especially, they very much attack India on the basis of the caste system. Recently, a girl came from America, and she was from Syracuse, New York. She was a yoga student, and she was at our temple, and very nice. She's in her mid-20s, married lady, and she went to some other place, and we were going to take her. We built an eco-village about 2 hours out of Bombay, and she was like in a hotel, and she was walking down the stairs, and she slipped and broke her foot. So we took her to our Bhaktivedanta hospital, and they did an x-ray, and she had a broken foot. They had to put her in a cast, and I went up to see her, and I said, "Welcome to the Indian caste system." But I said, because it's on your lower foot, unfortunately, you're in the lower caste. But anyways, the origin of the caste system is Varnashram Dharma, which is just the opposite of something oppressive and suppressive. It's not based on birth. It's based on our natural inclinations and the qualities that we live by. Some people are intellectuals. Some people are administrators and politicians or military. Some people are in business and banking and trading. Some people are, doing hard work. And it's not that one is higher than another, because the social body is like a human body. It's not that the head is saying to the legs that you are just a leg. I'm the head. And it's not that the leg is saying, why are you exploiting me? And the leg is kicking the head. And it's not that the arms and the stomach are fighting. The head is like the intellectuals, the educators. The arms are like the administrators and the political people. The stomach is like the people who are in business and trade and farmers. And the legs are the people who are, doing work, labor. Every society, whether you call it socialism, capitalism, communism, or any other ism, has all those divisions. And the idea is we're all one body. And every part of the body is working for the whole body. You know, the kidneys have a different shape and a different color than the lungs. And the eyes have a very different shape and color and inclination than the hands. But it's not that the parts of the body are, you know, egoistically trying to prove that I'm better than you or I deserve more than you. They're all working for the whole. Like this garland. You know, when we actually understand this higher principle, we're all here for each other. We're all the children of God in one family. And this is what's crucial, for people to have these values. So these are some thoughts. And I'm so happy to be here. And there's so many different kinds of people here tonight. We have Jitaraj, who's do you all know Jitaraj? He's one of the most popular and empowered radio disc jockeys that I've ever met. Very extremely popular, charismatic. He plays music and he's, you know, just enlivening millions of people on the radio every day. And we have bankers, and we have people in the American government, Counselor General, and school administrators, and bankers, and we have students, and housewives, and I'm a little Swami. And we have Aparna, my very dear friend, daughter, sister, mother, everything. Her family, they make ships, cargo ships, in Africa. So people from different nationalities, different occupations. But if we have that common focus, that foundation of deeper insight into who we are and our relation with each other, based on our love for God, then we're actually united. Can I tell you one strange story? It's really strange. Or should we have questions? Would you rather do questions or a strange story?
You don't have a choice.
People are naturally inclined towards strange things. Well, I'm coming from a Jewish family. We were in this field at night, and myself and one of my dear friends, who's from Germany, were sitting under a tree on a stone platform. You know how they have circular stone platforms around trees in India sometimes? And all these 2,000 people were sitting in the field. And it was night. It was really dark, just some moonlight. And suddenly we saw all these people jumping up because a snake was slithering through the crowds, and they were all kind of getting out of its way because they're usually poisonous. So we kind of just waited till the snake made his way through, and then we continued speaking. And we were talking about compassion. Compassion of my Guru Dev, Srila Prabhupada, who so much taught us these values that we're talking about. And my German friend explained how his father was an officer in the SS of the Nazi regime. Not a high-level officer, but like, a little down. They didn't go after him after the war because he wasn't so high-placed. But he was under his commanding officers, he marched through Lithuania. He was helping to run concentration camps. And, being a part of a machine, significant part, that was slaughtering Jews. And my family are Jews from Lithuania. And my father, my grandfather actually, he came just before World War I to America to escape the persecution of the Russian Tsar. And because he had no money, he didn't speak English, and somehow or other the government sent him to Hammond, Indiana, which is just outside of Calumet City, which is just a few minutes from Chicago. And that's where my grandfather lived when he was in his 20s. And he was just selling potatoes with a little hand-pushed cart, and he was just trying to make it. And every cent beyond, just the needs of his family, he was saving up to bring his brothers and sisters to America. And his whole savings he sent over there. And somehow or other, it was just before World War II, his brothers, his sisters, their families, who were my father's cousins, they all on a boat to Ellis Island in America. And who would be my grandfather's brother, he had a limp in his leg. So the U.S. government rejected him. They didn't want people who couldn't, do a lot for the country, I guess. So they sent him and his entire family back to Lithuania. And a few months later, the Nazis marched through, and they were all slaughtered. So I'm coming from a family where most of the members were killed by the Nazis. This person sitting next to me is coming from a family who was killing my family. And do you know something? The two of us are most intimately loving best friends. Why? Because there's a thread behind all these different colors that holds us together. We love each other because we're humans, because we're part of God. And I was just with him recently. I was in Germany with him. He comes to India with me. So yes, there's so many problems in this world based on problems with history. Some of our people hate each other because of things that happened thousands of years ago. In the book I wrote, I cite an example where my best friend, when I was 7 years old, his parents hated me because they said I was a Jew and I killed Jesus. And my friend told me, my parents hate you because you killed Jesus. And I'm just 7 years old. I said, I didn't do it. He said, no, you did it because you're a Jew. He said, and even God hates you. That's what they told me. I was completely mortified. I was this big. His parents were like, you know how big parents look when you're tiny. And I said, do you hate me? He said, no, you're my best friend, but when I grow up, I might hate you. He said, but I hope not. So, people hate each other because of things that happened hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, whatever. That common thread that unites us is what's so crucial to focus on. and to cultivate within ourselves. So that's the strange story.